what you think of each of these guys, and then, of course, how you think they could potentially fit in that offense. So first up, this is a fun one. I remember I was like, oh, we're getting spicy. Okay, Drake Maye, let us know. Why is he QB1 instead of, I feel like most people's consensus, Caleb Williams?
I'm going to start it off very, very simply. Look at all of the top quarterbacks in the NFL. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert. I'm going to leave off Lamar because he's kind of like an outlier in terms of the way that he's built. All of those dudes are like 6'3 plus, 220 plus. They're built like cyborgs, and they're really good athletes. Guess what Drake Maye is? He's 6'3 plus, 220 plus, and he's a really damn good athlete. And he's got an arm. Like, all those dudes obviously have really, really good arms. So I think you kind of just start from the standpoint of like, he is built and athletically has the tools of all of the guys who are at the elite level. And then I watch him play, and man, he's just got all the stuff that I love. Like I talked about pocket presence earlier. I think the way that he manages the pocket is fantastic. There are a couple of times where he does the Madden drop thing where he like kind of just shuffles back from pressure when probably he shouldn't and can run himself into trouble. But I think that's kind of just something you live with. I think generally he does a really good job of knowing when and where to move in the pocket. And the other thing that is especially impressive to me about that is there are certain guys that understand how to preempt pressure. Like they know where it's coming from before they snap, and they know where they're going to be able to move instead of just like reacting in the moment. Like Caleb is more of a like react in the moment guy. And he obviously it works for him. He's incredible. But Drake Maye has this quality to him where he understands where it's coming from, and he'll know that he can like, as soon as he even gets the snap, he'll start drifting a little bit because he knows where it's coming from. Like Trevor Lawrence had this quality. If you watch guys like Matthew Stafford, he has this quality. Tom Brady obviously had this quality. They just know where it's coming from, and they can, like, they won't even get pressured even when they should because they know how to beat it. So obviously I think that's really impressive from him. The arm talent is crazy. Like it's probably so not fun. Quite as good as like Justin Herbert, but it feels like pretty close to that level. Like he's not going to be in that S tier, but he's going to be right in that tier under that, where it's like, okay, he can do everything, and he can throw outside the pocket really well. He can throw on the move, different platforms. You know, the stuff you mentioned about that Steven Ruiz was talking about, where he can make that like kind of just flicks back and uses his core. Like he can do all that stuff. And then the other thing, like everyone is so excited about Caleb as like this creative, like he can do all this crazy stuff. And obviously he has that. Drake Maye has a lot of that, dude. Like He plays completely unhinged. Like he does some crazy stuff sometimes, probably to his detriment, but like he's probably more like Josh Allen than I think people realize. Like I think he gets billed as a little bit more of like the clean cut pocket passer in this class. He tries to do some insane stuff. But even to the point of Josh Allen, he's not as athletic as Josh Allen, but he's also a really good runner. I think in a straight line, he's probably the most athletic quarterback in this class outside of Jayden Daniels. Caleb is a little bit quicker, a little bit like shiftier, but I think just like purely in a straight line when he's striding, Drake making move. Like that dude goes. So I don't know. He just has a lot of stuff for me that it's like, from a tools perspective, he's got everything. And then I watch, like I said, some of the way that he'll process stuff pre-snap, some of the decisions he's making with where to put the ball relative to defenders is really impressive. Like he's got everything in the bag. Like there's really not that much that I could ask for that he doesn't already have.
I feel like he gets a bad rap because of where he goes to school, and also because you see those like crazy Josh Allen plays. And I'm kind of guilty of this, honestly. There was one game where he did it a ton. I think it was against Duke. And I'm like, he's got a little bit of Mac Jones in him where he's just like, oh my God, what are you doing? But the difference is it works. He's got the athleticism to actually make these things happen and pull them off. And also his vision, like just the fact that it's like that Josh Allen thing where like this weekend I'm watching Lamar Jackson, I'm seeing shades of Jayden Daniels, where it's just like it terrifies you as a defense because even if you do everything right, he can kill you. And with Josh Allen, where it's like, you know, the whole thing where it's like next gen stats, where I think he's like 6 for 6 throwing 1 yard from the sideline or something like that, where that's not what Drake does, but it's a similar thing where you think the play is dead. I posted it's like 2 minutes of Drake Maye being chaotic against Duke because you think he's going down and then he flicks it to somebody, and it feels like he always knows where the outlet is, and he has enough of an arm where even if it's not a perfect throw, when you think the play is dead, he can still get it out. And especially when he gets himself into trouble, I feel like all these young guys, at some point, you're going to make a mistake. You're going to, make a boneheaded decision where, oh, now we're dealing with 3rd and 12 because, there was that play where like he decides to run out of bounds and loses 2 yards instead of throwing it away. But then a couple plays later, he converts because he's got a crazy arm and all this talent. So I feel like he's the best fit for that kind of McVay system, because I do see shades of the Stafford where it's not the same, but you see some of the eye manipulation pre-snap. You see the ability to adjust his arm slot. So in your opinion, do you think he's probably the best fit of these guys in that kind of system?
I think so. And Stafford is really the perfect comparison. Or even it's a little bit more of, again, like a kind of different offshoot of this offense, but even like Geno, he kind of has some of the qualities of the certain throws that he's willing to make, the caliber of arm talent, where again, Geno, like I just said with Maye, isn't in the S tier of arm, but he's probably in that next tier where it's this dude can gun it just about anywhere that he wants to. And he has that just toughness in the pocket. And obviously Stafford has that, Geno has that. So I think he's probably that version of quarterback in this offense where you can do a little bit more drop back, don't need to be as under center as much, don't need to do as much of the boot stuff. You can kind of lean into the more, we're going to throw a bunch of dig routes over the middle and we're going to trust that our quarterback can make them. So I definitely think he's the best fit for this offense and just flatly the best quarterback, period.
And I miss that also, just his ability to throw over the middle of the field. It's just I haven't seen anybody in this class do it better on a consistent basis. If you take the crossers away, he'll throw the post and it's going to be on the money. Outside, I was watching, I feel like sometimes throwing a 9 route, he doesn't always lead his receivers. Sometimes I got to stop or slow down. But over the middle, it's no, he's putting that thing wherever the hell he wants. And it's exciting. I'm glad we're on the same page. I feel like people just don't, because you see the Caleb and the Jayden and all the exciting plays they make. But I agree. I really do think that Drake is that guy.
The NFL season is wrapping up, and there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets, guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
But moving on, Caleb. So QB2. What do you think?
Caleb's awesome. People are going to be mad that he's quarterback too, but it's pretty neck and neck, man. These guys are really, really good. And I wouldn't fault anybody for having Caleb quarterback 1, obviously. He does some stuff that Drake just doesn't. Caleb is funny because I've kind of come full circle in a way where coming into the season, he actually was my quarterback 1. And I was like, man, this guy, the arm talent, the arm elasticity, the athleticism, it's incredible. The creativity is awesome. I don't love his process sometimes, but it's good enough and he'll figure it out. And then I watched his first 4 or 5 games this season, not some of them studying, but some of them just live. And I was like, he looks a little off. He's I don't know if it's when Trevor Lawrence had his final year and he just kind of didn't play very well the beginning of the season. It kind of felt like something like that. So I was like, maybe he's not exactly what I thought he was. But then I actually just finished charting him all of through his 2023 season. By the end of it, I was like, yeah, this guy is pretty damn good, man. He's got all the stuff that I want. What really impressed me actually was his pocket presence is way better than I thought it was. Mm-hmm. Obviously, he can do all the crazy stuff to get outside of the pocket and go create and do all the twirling around and whatever it is that he does to get out of pressure. But there are 3-4 instances a game on tape where he's eyes up, strong base under him, and then he'll go make a throw. And it's okay, maybe you're not going to do this quite to the same consistency as a Drake Maye or whatever, but you clearly can do it. And this is going to be part of your game, even though you're a little bit of a shorter quarterback. So I think that was really impressive to me. Obviously the arm talent and is just, it's incredible. The some of the throws that he can get away with and make are just amazing. And to me, it's not even just the raw velocity that he can get. He throws with such incredible touch for how hard he throws the ball. And then he can do it from any arm angle. He can do the fading back. He can do it on the run. He'll do some weird stuff. He threw 4 sky hook passes this year where he's literally hooking it over his helmet. I'm like, what is wrong with you? Why are you doing this? And it works because he just has this. Yeah, it's whatever, man. If you're going to complete it, do whatever you want. But he just has this way of just manipulating his arm to do whatever it needs to. And it's incredible to watch. It's really rare. That's where the Mahomes comps are too much, but that's the one spot where I watch it and I'm like, okay, I don't know if any other quarterback is doing it the way that guy's doing it. So I thought that was really impressive. And then what I really wanted to touch on with Caleb too, actually, was his process. I think he gets knocked a little bit too much for being the creative chaos, go do whatever I want.
I know where this is
going. I don't actually think it's that bad. And especially as I got towards the end of the season, I thought he was progressing at being able to just like stay in the pocket, go 1 to 2 to 3, do what I need to do, get through my reads and make the right decisions. I think what like trips people up is there's 1, maybe 2 instances a game where they'll call a quick game concept and he's just like, I don't want to throw it. And it's like, okay, I mean, if you can go create and do whatever you want because you think that you can, you need 15 yards here and you don't want 5, fine. But he does it kind of consistently. And again, it's in a way where it's like, okay, I understand what I'm getting here. Like, I know that he's just going to have 1 or 2 of these plays a game where he just does that. I really don't think it's that he can't see it or he's not understanding what the defense is giving him, because there are plenty of instances to me where he'll see a blitz, boom, replaces it, or he sees certain leverage on a coverage, boom, hits it. And it's like, I know he can do these things. He just 1 or 2 times a game is like, I'm Superman. I'm going to go be Superman. And he's talented enough to go do it. So I really think he's incredible. Me putting him at quarterback 2 is no knock on him. I just slightly prefer Drake Maye, but Caleb is amazing.
And in terms of, I know you got some beef with their offense. And just like how it's structured. So I know people think of him and it's like, oh, he's got so many bad habits. He's going to bring those into the league. How much of it do you think was him being Superman because he truly had to? Because some of these concepts just weren't very good and just the talent around him. And do you think that when he gets to the next level, if he has good structure around him, that's something he can resolve relatively quickly?
I do. And yeah, again, the offense, I just don't really like how it's structured to me. I think I tweeted something like this. It's like an experiment in how many times can you run RPOs to the flat and then run wheel routes. Like that's the offense. Like that's all that they're trying to do. They'll throw a couple of stick routes in there just to spice it up. But it's really infuriating to me when I watch. And then honestly, what's really infuriating to me is like when they do try to do some other stuff, like with intermediate passing concepts, I don't know if it's that they give receivers freedom or if they're just not teaching it well, but like guys are ending up in really weird landmarks and like clearly not on the same page as Caleb. And so like he'll throw to a spot, receiver overruns it, or Caleb is throwing to a spot, receiver settles down. And it's like, I don't think this is on Caleb because all the receivers are doing it consistently. This to me feels like it's kind of baked into the Riley Cliff offense to have a little bit of like freedom and creativity. I actually think Caleb would benefit if we could just be like, guys, hit the landmark. I know where to make the throw. I'm going to get it there. My footwork might be a little weird. My timing might be a little weird, but I'm going to get the ball there. And so I actually think that if he gets into a more, proper sound NFL offense, I actually have pretty good faith that he's, maybe not year 1, maybe it takes a year or 2 like Josh Allen, but I think he's going to be just fine.
And it's obviously, like you said, the Mahomes comps aren't fair, but like a Mahomes where Andy Reid's like, hey, the first 2.5 seconds of the play are mine. If he can get Caleb into a structured system where he can actually feel comfortable doing that, that's when it gets really exciting because then he's comfortable actually operating within the structure of the play. And if it breaks down, that's when the magic starts to happen. I really hope he gets in a good landing spot and they don't just waste all of his talent. Moving on to QB3. Jayden Daniels. Now, there's been a lot of talk about him moving up the board, probably seeking into that QB2 category. The talk is usually that he could jump over Drake Maye, but you have Drake as QB1. So do you think there's a chance that he could jump either one of these guys? How high do you think he could potentially be taken, in a sense that it would be reasonable and not a team just kind of reaching for him?
I think it's possible only on the basis of like he is very clearly the best athlete at the position in this class, and he has a good enough arm. Like, but just when you watch him athletically, it's like, okay, nobody is going to be able to run as fast in the open field as him. Nobody is as quick as him. Like, not even Caleb. Like, Caleb is about as quick and agile as you can get for a quarterback. Daniels is even better than that. Like, it's crazy how much of an athlete he really is, and I could totally see. Yeah, it's just different speed, bro. Like some of the clips against like Florida specifically. Yeah. I'm like, dude, I don't know how you're moving like that at this position. It's like legitimately Lamar, like RG3, Justin Fields-esque, like where you're just like, he's at a different caliber of athlete than everybody else on the field. So I would get how that could entice a team. I just don't think it should happen though. Like he's as a passer, I think he's fine and like has a lot of interesting traits, but I don't think he's even close to these other two as a passer, just in terms of, and I'll start with the good, actually. I actually really appreciate his pocket presence. That dude is tough as nails. And he has a decent understanding of where to move and how to get. Like, I don't think it's as good as Drake Maye or even Caleb, but he has enough of an NFL baseline of understanding where to move and keep himself clean that I think he should be able to function there. And then he throws pretty decent when his platform is crowded. Like, I don't think that's that much of an issue for him. I think he can figure that out. The arm talent is I think acceptable. I think he throws it really well down the field, and that like kind of inflates how good his arm seems. I think sometimes he struggles throwing outside the numbers a little bit, but not to the degree of like Tua or Mac Jones or anything. I think it's more just like Jared Goff, where it's like this, he can do it, but maybe this isn't the best throw in,
it's not a focal point. Yeah.
It's like, we're going to try to not do this as much as we can, but he can get away with it. I do think, on the other hand, though, what bugs me a little bit with him is where, like I mentioned with Caleb, his process might not be perfect, but I know what it is. Like, I know what I'm getting when a certain thing is happen, when a certain concept is called, when a certain thing happens to him, whatever. With Jayden Daniels, it's a lot more confusing to me. Like, I just don't understand some of the decisions that he's making. Like, he'll get a man zone indicator with motion, and then he just like won't throw the route that you're supposed to throw, and then he'll just I just don't understand what he's doing. And then there will be certain times where he's very willing to turn and make a backside dig throw, other times where he just has no interest in doing it and will throw a slot fade that is clearly covered. And it's like, I just can't get a good gauge of exactly where he's at, because like I said, he has these flashes where he can go 1 to 2 to 3, step up in the pocket, dig route, or like backside post, or get to a check down. Like, he has these moments where he looks like an NFL processor. It's just inconsistent. And so to me, it's a little bit of a double-edged sword where it's like, okay, I feel good that coming into the league, he'll have an okay baseline. Like, we can get him to a functional spot. It's just a matter of like, how consistent are we ever going to get him when, like, this is a dude who's played for 5 years. And if he's still a little bit inconsistent at this point, right, you wonder like how far he can really go. It was the same concern I had with Kenny Pickett. Obviously, Pickett was a lot less talented, so it hurt him more to be that way. And Daniels is more talented and tougher than that. But I do have that same concern where it's like, you've already played a lot and you're still a little up and down. It gives me some concerns. So I think he's actually a pretty high floor prospect. I just think the passing ceiling is like, I don't know if he's ever going to be in that like elite tier.
I was actually curious what you think his ceiling is, because I know watching him with Drake and even with Caleb, maybe not as consistently, but I feel like they stay on schedule very well. Like, Drake knows, all right, it's not really here, I should run it. Even if he misses something, it's like, all right, he understands he's athletic enough to stay ahead of the chains. And it's like really consistent drives. With Jayden, I'm like, I just don't see it. I feel like these drives are really clunky and he's not really, but then rips off a 50-yard run and it's like, all right, in the league, like, he's probably going to make these same mistakes where, like you said, especially with the over the middle stuff, where he'll be looking right at it. It's like, what are we waiting for?
I'm like, throw it, bro.
And he doesn't. And it's weird because you'd expect from a mobile quarterback, it's like, oh, he's just looking to run. It's like, no, he's very good. He'll stay in the pocket forever, but he doesn't throw the ball. So at the next level, where do you think a good quarterback coach can get him? And, I feel like a lot of the talk about him is he's on that trajectory where every year he's gotten better, but he is an older prospect. So do you think when he gets to the NFL, it's like a Jalen Hurts thing where obviously this season was a little funky, but where he can kind of continue that ascension and just learns really quickly? Or is that something where it's more kind of innate and it might take him longer than you might want, with the understanding that, of course, with that athleticism and the ability to like rip off these crazy long runs or just drop it in the bucket like 40, 50 yards downfield down the sideline to kind of make up for it, do you think he can become more consistent where those things help his game instead of kind of being a crutch where he's having to deal with all the other deficiencies?
I think that Jalen Hurts, like, I don't think they're one-to-one as players or anything, but I think that tier-ish of quarterback where it's like he's above average, he does some certain things really, really well that you can build the offense around, and he gets like kind of better, like 2% better every year, but that like it's going to be really hard for that. How do I describe this? Like, I think there are certain prospects where like there can be a light bulb moment where they become something unbelievable. Like Josh Allen, obviously. Like Josh Allen, you could see that he had all these physical tools and he needed this light bulb moment to where he could be incredible. I struggle to see how that's going to happen with Jayden Daniels because, again, he's played so long and he's played in like relatively pro style passing offenses. Like the stuff they were doing at LSU was like real deal stuff, bro. Like they're throwing real football concepts, and he, so he's already got reps in this stuff. It's not going to be that much of a learning curve in that sense. So I think kind of in that Jalen Hurts tier where it's like you can get him to be quarterback 9 to 15, just like depending on some of the circumstances and other stuff like that. So I think that's probably like the best case scenario. My comparison for him actually doesn't make that much sense relative to that. To me, he feels like he has Tyrod's tools, but like with Ryan Fitzpatrick's brain, where he's like very willing to stay in the pocket, very willing to make some insane throws, very willing to get himself killed by a linebacker.
I feel like that Looney Tunes play is starting to go over Twitter, where he just like, that's the biggest thing also is, and when we talk about size, with Drake, for me, I don't want to be freaking John Elway in the Broncos where I'm like, he has to be 6'4" and all this stuff. Like, I think that's a bit overrated. But with Drake, it's like, he's going to be able to take some big hits and he'll be able to survive. Jaden's tough as hell, and he's taking big hits and hasn't had any significant injuries that I know of. But the fact that he is still willing to get leveled, and then it's like that's your worst case scenario where it looks like a welcome to the NFL moment where it's like, oh, I can take this hit. No, not only can you not take the hit, ball's gone the other way. Like that's the thing with him where on top of some of the passing deficiencies, it's like, yeah, but he also might get himself killed. And then you invest all this, and then you're probably down a quarterback, and it kind of does scare me. But at the same time, the athleticism, it's like if he learns to slide and protect himself, then you got a real problem on your hands because he's going to walk into the league as probably the second best scrambler.